Jasmine's presence still lingered in our bedroom, a haunting reminder of the woman who once filled the space with love and laughter. Now, it served as an unwelcome symbol of betrayal. Anna had always adored Jasmine. It was part of her essence, sweet yet cruel. What once represented her warmth had transformed into a mocking symbol of how empty our marriage had become. The slow unraveling of our relationship was subtle, almost unnoticeable at first. Late nights, out-of-town business trips, and the vacant, distant look in her eyes. Whenever I tried to talk, I wasn't blind. I noticed the small changes, the chill, creeping into her touch, but I chose to ignore them. I loved her completely, perhaps even foolishly. I clung to the dream of our perfect life together, the one where we'd grow old, sharing quiet laughs about our quirks and habits. Then came the proof, the kind that crushes illusions. One evening, she left her phone unlocked. I wasn't snooping, it was just there. The messages were impossible to overlook, lines filled with the pet names she once used for me, now directed at someone else. My stomach churned, my vision blurred, and a furious rage surged through me. It wasn't just a betrayal that broke me. It was the casual ease with which she tossed aside everything we had built, our promises, our plans, our shared dreams. But what truly haunted me, what kept my fists clenching long after, was that night of her annual university friends gathering. It had always been her tradition, a reunion of old friends at our home, filled with drinks and nostalgic laughter. I had tolerated it every year for her sake. She loved it, and I loved her. But this year was different. That night, the laughter sounded sharper, almost predatory. Their glances carried unspoken secrets, and the room seemed charged with something bitter. I poured myself a bourbon, the burn matching the bitterness in my chest. Anna, ever the center of attention, dominated the room with her stories that felt like subtle daggers aimed at me. "Hey, Janet," she called out, her voice oozing with sarcastic charm. "Isn't it just so typical? Every anniversary, the same flowers. So predictable, right?" Her words cut deeper than she realized. Their laughter followed, sharp and relentless, like wolves closing in on their prey. She didn't stop there. She mocked my taste in music, my cooking, even the way I slept. With each jab, I felt myself shrinking, humiliation gnawing at me. And then came the final blow. She raised her wine glass, her tone laced with mockery. "You know what it's like," she said, laughing. "Living with a houseplant just sits there, watching TV, so passive." The room exploded with laughter, but something inside me snapped. The fiery rage that had been simmering was replaced by an icy, calculated calm. I refused to be the punchline of her jokes any longer. I wouldn't shrink. I wouldn't break. I left the room quietly, deliberately. Each step up the stairs felt like a statement of purpose. In our bedroom, I sat down at my desk, my hands steady as I opened my computer. Weeks earlier, I had created a hidden folder, a grim insurance policy. Inside, I stored every piece of evidence I had gathered, messages, photos, dates. I had collected it in a desperate attempt to save our marriage. Now, it would serve a different purpose. I copied everything onto a USB drive, retrieved the projector we used for movie nights, and, with it tucked under my arm, I returned to the party. The chatter stopped the moment I entered. All eyes were on me. The air thickened with tension, and Anna's smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of unease. "What's that?" she asked, her voice trying to sound casual, but the worry beneath was unmistakable. I met her gaze, my expression cold and unyielding. "Just a presentation," I said flatly. With that, I inserted the USB drive into the projector, ready to expose the truth before everyone. I set up the projector on the coffee table, positioning it to face the blank expanse of our living room wall. The soft click of the USB slipping into place echoed in the now silent room. Stillness filled the air, anticipation thick as fog. Then the first message appeared, sharp and undeniable, bright and damning. Can't wait for the night, sweetie. Mike is so boring. He'd never understand the passion we share. Gasps rippled through the room, cutting through the silence like stones dropped into still water. Kate, as close as a confidant, audibly gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The once lively atmosphere dissolved, as one message after another projected onto the wall, each more incriminating than the last. Every text, every photo, and every recorded voicemail painted a vivid and undeniable picture of Anna's betrayal. There were pictures, her smiling, leaning into a coworker, with a familiarity meant only for lovers. There were voice notes, filled with secrets, whispered promises, and intimacy that had long been absent from our own marriage. The evidence played on in an unrelenting sequence, leaving no room for denial. The room felt suffocating, the faint laughter replaced by stunned whispers, a tension so thick it seemed to strangle the air. Anna sat frozen, her usual composure shattered. Her eyes darted from the screen to her friends, pleading silently for someone to step in, to shield her from the truth now exposed. But no one moved. I watched her crumble, the mocking, self-assured woman from earlier, unraveling into something hollow and desperate. Her friends, once eager to join in her cruel humor, now looked at her with a mixture of disgust and discomfort. They had laughed with her, empowered by her mockery, but now their amusement had curdled into shame. Not a word passed my lips throughout the entire presentation. I let the evidence speak for me, each frame and recording louder than any accusation I could have made. When the final slide faded to black, a deafening silence followed. Anna broke it with a sob, her composure shattered as she buried her face in her hands. Tears spilled freely, but they earned no sympathy from the room. Her friends sat motionless, their faces pale and drawn, too stunned to offer comfort or excuses. I stood there, calm and unmoved, the anger that had burned so fiercely within me, now replaced with cold, quiet satisfaction. For months, I had endured humiliation, allowing her to belittle me while carrying the weight of her betrayal. Now, the burden was hers to bear. Breaking the silence, I spoke, my voice steady and firm. I won't give you the drama you're hoping for. No yelling, no fighting. The evidence speaks for itself. I turned to her friends, still sitting awkwardly in the wake of the revelations. It's time for everyone to leave. No one argued. They filed out silently, their gazes averted, leaving Anna alone in her misery. Without another glance, I ascended the stairs, packed a single bag, and walked out of the jasmine-scented apartment that had become a mausoleum of broken trust. That night, I found myself on the balcony of a modest hotel room, overlooking the glittering lights of downtown Seattle. The cool night air kissed my skin, carrying with it a sense of liberation I hadn't felt in years. The weight of her betrayal, of my silence, had lifted, leaving me lighter, freer. I knew the road ahead would be difficult. Divorce, dividing assets, untangling the life we had built together. But I also knew I would face it all, without the shadow of her deceit looming over me. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't dared to hope for: peace. The jasmine-scented apartment was behind me now, reduced to a painful but distant memory. It was time to breathe fresh air and start anew.